I'm willing to bet money that if you saw this car in the wild, if you just stumbled across it, you'd be able to identify it as a BMW. Then you might think, oh look, it's the new BMW X5. Well, you'd be wrong, because this is actually the X3. And believe it or not, it's bigger than the first X5. This thing has really grown up. But is bigger always better? Well, let's find out. Let's go for a drive. The new X3 range kicks off with the 20 model at $86,100 with its mild hybrid driveline and its 19-inch alloy wheels and tyres, tri-zone climate control, dual info screens, auto headlights, keyless entry and start, automatic tailgate, digital radio, heated and powered front seats, full connectivity and wireless phone charging. The 30e model is next, and largely what you're paying for is the bigger electric motor and battery that gives the car its plug-in hybrid abilities. But the 30e does also get bigger wheels and tyres, 20-inch in this case, the sunroof and ventilated seats. The flagship is the M50 model, and while it goes back to a mild hybrid layout, what you're really spending your money on here is the inline 6-cylinder turbocharged engine that is a ripper. Other additions include 21-inch alloys, quad exhaust tips, some aero tack-ons, and some M Sport gear, including seatbelts and red brake calipers. Call it $128,900. For the full rundown, check out the written review at carsguide.com.au. When it comes to design, big is the word, with the X3 stretching every previous dimension apart from height. Some of the design cues, like the short overhangs, are classic BMW X model stuff. Others, like the huge split grille intakes, are newer. BMW has also concentrated on the environment with this car, with recycled materials for some of the interior trim and even recycled aluminium in the alloy wheels. BMW has traditionally done pretty good interiors, and this it's kind of avant-garde, but it's still pretty nice. It's got a 12.3-inch screen and a 14.9, but they're kind of joined at the hip, so it looks like one big curved screen, very techy. Everything you need's here in terms of information, if you know where to find it, and it will take some acclimatisation because there's a heck of a lot going on here. The gear shift is a little funny. There's no distinct park button. When you press the handbrake on, it drops into park. That's okay, I can live with all that, but it will take some getting used to. The seats are gorgeous, particularly in this top flight model. These are the sports seats. There's good room in the back. The rear seat is actually a bit of a surprise. It's always going to be better for 4 instead of 5, this car, but that's just the nature of things. But what you can't get is a third row of seats, so this is strictly a 5-seater. If you want a 7-seater, you've got to go to an X5 or an X7. This is a beautiful steering wheel too. It's got that flat bottom thing going on, nice fat rim, leather clad. It's just really, really nice. It's a nice place to be, and everything works pretty well. Vision's good, the camera systems are really good, and there's a ton of cubby holes and storage baskets, and in the back there's little luggage nets and there's chargers everywhere. The kids will be happy, trust me. Because it's a strict 5-seater, luggage space in the X3 is no problem. In the mild hybrid models, there's 570 litres with the 60-40 split second row in place, and 1700 litres with it folded flat. In the plug-in model, the battery pack gobbles up about 100 litres from those two figures, but it's still a very usable space. In the old days, you could have your BMW X3 with a diesel engine, a petrol engine, and more recently, a petrol-electric hybrid. These days, it's petrol-electric hybrid or nothing. The world has changed. But because this is a luxury brand and choice means luxury, there are subtleties within that in terms of this car. This is the range topper with the straight 6 turbo petrol and a mild hybrid. There's an entry-level car with a 2-litre and a mild hybrid. And then somewhere in the middle of all that, there's a plug-in hybrid, also with a 2-litre petrol, but a bigger electric motor and battery pack. And it's apparently good for up to 91 kilometres of electric-only driving. So the question is, which is the one you want to buy? Both mild hybrid versions, the 20 and M50, boast impressive official combined fuel consumption figures of 7.4 and 8.2 litres per 100 kilometres respectively. That's pretty handy for a big heavy car like this. And of course, the 30e model with its plug-in driveline absolutely smashed the official test procedure. It scored a wacky 1.6 litres per 100 kilometres. Wacky? Yeah, because outside of a very narrow set of circumstances, you won't match this in real life by any means. Both mild hybrids have a 65-litre fuel tank for plenty of range, while the 30e can run up to about 90 kilometres on pure electricity. Charging for that car should take about 2 hours 15 minutes on an 11 kilowatt outlet. Again, the full details are included in the written review at carsguide.com.au. So what's the BMW X3 like to drive? Well, I'm going to be honest here, completely honest, and say that historically I haven't always got on too well with this type of vehicle. These full-size four-wheel drive SUVs have often seemed to me to be just a collection of compromises. Because they're heavy, because they're big, because they're tall, everything gets compromised. And you can feel it in the way it drives. I'm happy to say in this case, things have improved. This is the M50 xDrive. This has got the big 3-litre turbocharged 6-cylinder engine, and it is the dominating feature of this vehicle, of this model. It doesn't really need the hybrid assistance, let me tell you. This thing rockets towards the horizon like there's no tomorrow. It is quick in an old school petrol engine kind of way. It's really nice. It's got a great soundtrack and it feels awesome. I think on this car with the optional 21-inch rims, it does ride a little bit firmer than perhaps I'd like. Let me talk you through the other models too. The PHEV plug-in hybrid is it's pleasantly powerful. It's certainly quick enough, but you can feel that it is a petrol engine and an electric motor working together. Not in terms of the way they hand over power to each other, just in the way the car feels and how it responds. So I'm going to be controversial here and say that my favourite car in the X3 lineup to drive is actually the 2-litre mild hybrid base model, the entry-level car, the cheapest version. To me, that little 4-cylinder, because it's only got the mild hybrid, it's not overwhelmed. The major impression is of the petrol engine doing its job, and it is a fabulous little engine. It's as smooth as this 6, I think, but it's really fizzy and up for the job, and it feels great. To me, that car wins on a couple of other levels too. It's on 20-inch wheels instead of 21s, so it rides a little bit better. And I thought it might even ride better on the standard 19s. The 20s are an option. But then I discovered that the 19s are run flat, so that probably cancels out any advantage there. But with that little bit more sidewall on the 20-inch tyre, it does ride better than this car. It's subtle, but it's there. The other thing I really love about the entry-level car is that everything seems to be talking to each other logically. Every single component's working properly with the next one. The steering isn't fighting the suspension. The engine isn't fighting the chassis. I guess it's what you would call in harmony with itself. It's just a really resolved piece of gear. And as a result, I reckon it steers better, it feels nicer, and it responds in a way that gives me more of a thrill, to be honest. I mean, this thing's fast, and the plug-in hybrid's fast as well, but I think if it was my money, I'd be buying the entry-level car, purely because of the way it comes together as a package. Who knows? It could be a complete accident, but I think BMW isn't, they're no dummies at this. They know what they're doing. So, let's give them credit for making a base model a really desirable option rather than just the one you buy if you can't afford the lease repayments on the one you want. Nice touch. As far as safety goes, there's pretty much every electronic driver assistance program fitted to the X3, which is what you'd expect. So every variant gets autonomous emergency braking, lane keeping assistance, front and rear cross traffic alert, parking assistance, tyre pressure monitoring, and a 360-degree camera. What you won't find is an ANCAP star rating because the X3 hasn't been tested locally, nor is it likely to be. As per BMW's usual system, there are no set service intervals for the X3. Instead, the onboard computer logs how the car has been driven and recommends a service when it's needed. There's fixed price servicing at about $2,500 for the first 5 years. The car is covered by the factory 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, as well as a 6-year 100,000 kilometre warranty on the high voltage battery in the plug-in model. I know I said earlier that I'm not exactly in love with this type of big SUV vehicle or this concept in general, but I reckon this time BMW might have just turned the corner, or at least has to some extent. And here's what I reckon's going on. In the past, vehicles like this were spun off sedan platforms, okay? You took a sedan, you put a bigger, taller, heavier body on it. To cope with that, it needed bigger, heavier brakes, bigger, heavier wheels and tyres, and the whole thing degenerated into this big pile of compromises. It was no longer the sharp, great handling platform it had once been. Now, of course, because the SUV is king of the world, car companies like BMW aren't spinning them off a sedan chassis anymore. In fact, they're designing them as SUVs from the get-go. In fact, sometimes there's not even a sedan equivalent. And I reckon that's the difference. And I also reckon that's why the base model of this X3 is the one that I prefer. So if you've decided an X3 is right for you, and it may well be, by all means, buy the X50. It's got great performance. Buy the plug-in hybrid. It's got great efficiency. But do yourself a favour and don't dismiss the base model. Drive the entry-level car, because to me, it's the one that is the best integrated of all three. And when that happens in a base model, that tells me that the fundamentals of the car are actually right. And let's hope so, because an SUV of this size that is fundamentally right has been a long time coming. I'm pleased to see that it might just be here.